Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Rolka. I want to welcome you to this week's live event. This is live event number 56. We're well over the year mark, which is really cool if you ask me. This is the very first live event that I'm doing behind the grand piano that you see in so many of my videos. I've finally got all this stuff together, which is really, really cool. The piano is in desperate need of tuning. That's better than I thought it was going to be. But in any case, it is okay. Hello, Natasha. Hello, Altug. Hello, Jer Arroyo. Hi, everybody. This is your live event. And the chat is clearly open. Hello, Tadeus. And as I am fond of saying, if you have a question, please be not shy. Dive in. I am almost certain that if you are wondering about something, someone else is wondering about something. And we all benefit from your questions. So thank you very much. Welcome, JC's Radiant Ray. Good afternoon to you. And good day, Sequencer. I always space out on inviting you guys to Sequencer. Sequencer is a Facebook group that I started, and it's a great way to keep things moving. So if you like the kind of interactions that we have here, I don't think it's quite like that, but there's lots of people that share recordings and share feedback, and there's tons of really great vocalists and people, and I chime in from time to time too. So get in touch with Sequencer and join the group if you want to get some feedback on your stuff and do that kind of thing. Hello, Holly Emmerich. Hello, Pro Audio Rev. Giuseppe, hey. Divis, G, Sonia, hello. Capone, hello. I know, Capone. What happened, huh? Chris Cornell, I couldn't even believe it. I was shocked. He was only 52. And then someone posted it on Sequencer, and I saw it, and I was like, this isn't right. I thought they were talking about the guy from Alice in Chains, whose name escapes me at the moment. I'll probably think of it in a moment. But I thought they had like mistaken Chris Cornell for that guy, but I was wrong. Alta, happy to hear your piano has arrived. Me too. I'm very psyched to have it back. I don't have the foot pedals. The foot pedals are underneath the piano, but they stripped one of the screws, so I have to wait for insurance to figure all that out. But I can play the piano, just no damper pedal. Trinity Preacher, praise God. God bless you in your house. In the name of Jesus, thank you. Saying hello, Jeff. Missed last couple ones. Haven't been well. I'm sorry to hear that. I have been okay. I think I was actually a little bit sicker with some kind of intestinal thing than I realized. Because my back and breathing were hurting for a number of weeks, but now I feel much better. Mandy, hello, Mandy. Stryker, good to see you here. Edwin, hello. Heidi, hello. Also, question. Is the pressure on the vocal cords the same for each vowel? Very interesting question. That is a very, very interesting question. Honestly, Altug, I don't know. If I sing it, it feels quite the same, assuming the vowels are in alignment. I suppose if I were out of alignment, there might be some varying degrees of pressure, but I will have to look that up. My books have arrived too, so I can review my my textbooks and answer that more thoroughly. I'm going to have to take a pass on that one, and I will get back to you. Pressure on vowels. Really interesting question. Trinity Preacher, any recommendations on the vocal effects from suffering from GERD? I have suddenly developed severe acid reflux. That can be really, really tricky. That can be very, very tricky. I hope that you are under a doctor's supervision. The main problem with acid reflux is that the stomach fluids get over the vocal fold and it can irritate it quite significantly. In this case, again, everything must be taken into the context of under doctor's orders. So you have to follow your doctor's orders. The difficulties with this are that when the stomach acids get on the vocal folds, they can inflame them. If you get inflammations, that can severely limit phonation, and especially good upper register response. So the general rule of thumb, if you cannot vocalize over the secondo passaggio, you must take vocal rest. That can be really tricky with acid reflux. So it's imperative that you do what your doctor says. That will hopefully manage it, and that will then keep you healthy and free to sing. But the main thing is that you've got to do what your doctor says, manage the condition, and try to stay healthy so that the vocal folds are not inflamed. If they're just irritated, but you can vocalize over the secondo passaggio, it's typically considered safe to sing. You ought to very carefully consider your overall body fatigue. If you're feeling very tired in your whole body, then you will not have the energy to adequately maintain your engagement above the secondo passaggio. And as such, you will want to pace yourself very carefully in your practice. So think like a single exercise and then a little bit of rest. Move your body, stay loose, and then do another exercise and get back into it. Charles Winterberger, here's one. I freak when I start reading LEDG, ledger lines. I can dig it. Of course, you will get used to it. And particularly if you're reading ledger lines consistently, then just over time, you will get more and more accustomed to it. What you might consider doing is, in your vocalizations, read them off of a page. Even if you don't need to read them off the page, do so anyway, just so that you get more accustomed to seeing the ledger lines. It will not take you long if you make a consistent effort in putting music in front of your face to acclimatize to reading the ledgers. Lillian, hey, I've missed a few live streams, so I'm glad I caught this one. Likewise, I'm glad that you're here. Welcome. If you've got any questions, please dive in. Trinity, yes, glad you are resting your legs now versus standing. Indeed. Where am I? Wow, lots of questions. FYI, guys, I forgot to do my whole station identification at the front of the thing. If you've subscribed, thank you. If you haven't yet, I hope you will consider doing so now. If you go over to jeffrolka.com, AAA method is there. It's all sequential. You can go check it out. It's all free and stuff like that. I get questions sometimes about making contributions to the channel, and they are greatly appreciated. YouTube no longer does fan funding. They have instead chosen to do something called Super Chat. I have chosen to not. I'm not going to enable Super Chat. I'm not going to go into details about what it is. You can read about it online. It is utterly anathema to how I want the channel to do. So if you wish to contribute, you can no longer use fan funding. But if you go to jeffrolka.com, there are links to PayPal. And if you don't like PayPal, you can get in touch via jeffrolka.com and we can sort that out. Contributions are always greatly appreciated. Holly Stoll at Trinity Preacher. Pro Audio Rev TV, can you take a little bit of interpretation and build artistic... Can you talk a little bit of interpretation and build an artistic, unique personality? Thanks. Of course. That's a great question. The interesting thing about that question is that I think that there are two prevailing thoughts about how we arrive at our own sense of artistry. And I have my perspective on this, which is the way that I do things, and I can speak to that in a second. And there are other ways of doing this. A tried and true, sort of a historical approach to understanding artistic interpretation is to dive into those that inspire you. So if you are incredibly into Beyonce, then you would learn her songs and her riffs note for note time, exactly in time and note for note, and then be able to sing those without singing along with her to just a guide track, without the melody playing. It would just be the chordal accompaniment, and you would be able to execute it as if you were Beyonce. And then from there, you kind of whittle down the things that you like about it and the things that you don't. You dispense with the things that you don't, and further implement the things that you like. I think that there is a lot of value in that, and that is part of what I have done. I also spend a lot of time in analyzing things. So when I find something that I find really interesting, like really, 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 I just find it incredibly attractive, then I will want to understand the chord structure and melodically how they do things that gives it that sound. So I'll do a theoretical analysis of it in addition to learning to sing and play it. And that informs my artistic decisions when I'm writing music. I'm specifically thinking of this one song by the Shins. And there, it's in the key of D major, and then it immediately goes to this F major chord, which would be borrowed from D minor, and it gives the song an incredible coloration to it, because then his melody starts on F. Something like that is the way the melody goes. And all of those things, the things that we like, then translate into what we incorporate into our own music. Now, when you incorporate them too closely, it's obviously, that it can reflect on the original artist to too large a degree, particularly if the song is still very, very popular. But that song is called Young Pilgrims, I think. And if I would be surprised if any of you knew that song, but I still wouldn't use that chord progression without making some adjustments to it in order to make it more my own, so that it was just more me, more reflected my sense of melody and things like that. I hope that's a huge question, Giuseppe. That's a huge, huge question that we could talk about for days. And I hope that at least scratches the surface. Basically, there are things about when we listen to music, we can learn what it is objectively that we truly love about the songs that we are attracted to. So I listened to that song and I was like, ooh, that really got my ear. And then I pull it apart to understand what it is that I like so much about it. And then that informs my decisions artistically moving forward. But you don't have to do that, at a piano. You can do that by ear. Depending on your level of ear training, it will take more or less time. I do think it's important for us, if we can, to bring it into the written world, or at least the concrete world of that's a D minor chord, or D major, that's F major, that's G major, so on and so forth. That really gives us a concrete basis for what we like and what we don't like. Bhavya, should I exercise more or sing more songs? A little bit of both, honestly. Think about it in terms of percentages. Think about like 25 to 30% technique, and then the rest of your time spent on singing music. But don't sing the songs and only sing the songs. Take a look at the songs, and if you're having trouble with spots, then apply the exercises to those spots so that you can then make those spots better. I'm trying to think of an example here off the top of my head. Well, it's like the video I released this week on the Oasis tune. If that's an excellent explanation in how to work through problem spots in songs. Striker King, can you demonstrate vocally and physically good and not so good breath control? There has been a lot of discussion lately on the difference. I'll try. I've been training my breathing for something like 30 odd years at this point. So I realized in a lesson this week, it's getting more difficult for me to do things incorrectly because the habits I've built around it have become really, really ingrained. This is obviously a good problem to have. Mostly, what I usually say around these things is that what I'm gonna do to demonstrate the incorrect method is at best a gross approximation for what may be experienced in a vocalist who's doing it without realizing it. So good breath control. Let's see how you can see me here. That will help you a little bit more. So if I do that, and I don't have a pedal. So here's my breath. Notice how this stays open and engaged, right? You can't see my abdominal muscles, but you'll see the breath there a little bit. One of the things that you'll notice with poor breath control is that this will collapse over time. So here I am, relaxed. Here I take my breath. And I really have to start squeezing in order to try to simulate any kind of real engagement. The thing with poor breath control is it's almost always coupled with some type of inefficiency or poor alignment of the vowels. So you'll also get this sagging and a poor adduction of the vowel. And that's when the vocalist will try to squeeze out that resonance that would occur quite naturally if they retained their expansion, retained their engagement, and had good vowel alignment. All of those things work together. They work hand in hand to give us proper, efficient phonation. Unlikely source. Hello. Charles Winterberger, but I can hit the note if I'm not looking at it. How do I get out of my head? I'm not sure why it would have any... I'm not sure why. So you haven't said that you can't hit the note if you are looking at it. If you can't hit the note when you do look at it, then there are some practical considerations. One, have the stand at an appropriate height so you can have good posture and good airflow, and maybe have it off to the side so that you're not trying to sing to the music and you're singing past it. And it may just be practice. You may have to sing one phrase with it, like sing it without it. Sorry, B flat. Put the music at an appropriate distance so you can see it. And carry on. Just with, without, with, to habituate yourself to having the music there in front of you. Jeff, I have a question. I'm trying to learn how to do scales on my piano, but I look everywhere to find how and I can't. Help! I want to increase my vocal range to go higher. How can I do that? Okay, so you've got a couple questions in there. One, there are a variety of... if you mean play scales on your piano, then there are any variety of fingering systems that you can use. I don't even know the name of the fingering system any longer that I use. I'm not sure that I was ever even taught the fingering system that I use to play my scales on piano. But there are certainly a lot of apps that will show you, like that'll light up the notes as you go. I think Piano 3D will do that. It's kind of huge, sort of a massive app, but it does sound really nice. And additionally, there are lots of resources online where you can learn to play your scales. Increasing your vocal range is not just about learning to do the scales on the piano. It's about airflow. It's about vowel alignment in the thyroarytenoid dominant range, your chest voice, and learning to narrow it there and how it's going to change as you ascend through the zona de passaggio and over the secondo passaggio. So my advice to you is to take a look at the resources that are on YouTube that discuss both alignment of vowels, airflow, arpeggio, the arpeggio breathing video. The diaphragmatic warm-up is a great way to exercise those skills, and I want to do a new one of those in the very, very near future once the piano gets tuned. And then the range exercises that are available to you on YouTube. There's a bunch of different stuff. If you like sing, how to sing in head voice, or something fell. Don't know. I think that was the battery in one of my guitars just fell out of place. How to sing in head voice, how to sing over the break. Those detail the process that I go to. And I'm going to be doing a Udemy course this summer that is going to be entirely focused on upper register singing. So you can also do that once it comes out. Trinity Preacher at Holly. Chris Adwa. Hi, everyone. Hello, Jeff. Hello to you. Today is how can I relax the swallowing muscles and not engage them when I sing? I've been doing the stick the tongue, hold it, and vocalize exercise for 3 days now, but it feels like I'm making it worse. You are most likely becoming rather aware of how those muscles are working when you are singing. If you're still holding the tongue, then the next step is to let it come out onto the lower lip. So you'd have started with. Beyond that, you then have it here. And when it's resting there and you're not grabbing it, you have to control those muscles to keep them from engaging. I thought that was in the video. If it's not, that's stage 2. And you can do really any warm-up with that. So you could pick like a one to do that with might be the gentle warm-up. And just keep the tongue out. Where the tongue is lying on the lower lip. Mandy Cummins, now that you mention intestinal issues cause back pain and breathing problems, that makes so much sense. I have some kind of bug at the moment, and I'm having the same discomfort. I'm just guessing. That may not necessarily have been what was happening, but it certainly felt like it. Like I was having all kinds of weird issues. My back hurt, and I was having like some weird breathing things. And then now it's feeling much, much better, and everything is kind of getting back to normal. If you can, I would highly recommend seeing your GP. Edwin Myers, then I can help you. Pressure is more on E and A. Perhaps so. Not sure what that is, but it looks cool. I think that's a smiley face. That's good. Edwin, it's neutral in ah and o, and it's the least on oo. Oo is a narrow vowel. If E and A would be higher pressure, oo would be as well. I'm going to say that sounds like an interesting viewpoint, but I definitely want to check my resources. Eric Akao. That's a new user ID. Welcome. Is tenor training and bass training the same? I want to be basso profundo. Okay, being basso profundo is cool if that's what your voice is. Where are we here? If your voice is basso profundo, that's great. They're not exactly the same. There are elements of similarity in training all the vocal and all of the fasces or Fachs. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce that. F-A-C-H. It's German, so I'm actually beginning to think it's probably Fach. There are elements of similarity when it comes to airflow and alignment, but in terms of the registers, in terms of the areas of the voices that are unique, are the sort of unique characteristics, then you approach them differently. Basso profundo would have a lot more presence and power in its lower part of the range, whereas a tenor would not. And so we would focus differently on those ranges of the voice. Holly at Trinity. Capone, one problem. Hoo-hoo. I can go F5 in falsetto, but have difficulties with ha, he, hi, who? I can feel my nose and cheeks. What is wrong with me? Um, well, one, I'm not entirely sure, Capone, because we're not. Those aren't IPA vowels, and they're also not the way I'm used to seeing them. Um, ha, he, ha, I, oo, ah, e, a, oo, ah, e, a, oo. One of the things, if you feel it, depends on how much you feel it in your nose and cheeks, and if it's really, really in your nose and cheeks, then you might be losing the connection with you may be losing too much adduction around the vocal fold. It may be separating a little bit too much to properly phonate in that range. Ooh, then that's an interesting that with the ooh vowel, it wouldn't occur because the ooh naturally wants to focus more towards the rear of the oral cavity. So, or does that a period there? If that's a full stop there, then ooh. Yeah, that is what I suspect is happening. If the ooh is staying on the vocal fold sufficiently, you may be coming too far forward. You may be losing too much adduction. In other words, the vocal fold is separating too much on the e a e is how I'm interpreting that. In which case, then put ooh in that series. Like take the ha out and put the ooh in place of it, and that may help set you up to stay more well adducted for the remaining vowels in the sequence. Divis. Jeff, thanks for the hard works. How should I practice the AAA method? Should I practice the entire sections every day? It depends on where you're at. I made the method to be sequential. So really, I think articulation, alignment, airflow, or airflow, alignment, and articulation. Ultimately, once you get to the articulation section, those exercises you would be able to practice in perpetuity to maintain healthy singing in your thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, your chest voice. And then once you're in that section, you could either come back to YouTube and start branching out, working on the vowels that specifically challenge you or are more appropriate to the repertoire, the songs that you're singing. And then you could also then go back and spot check things in the airflow and alignment pages if you are finding difficulties. But it does require some self-analysis. You need to be aware of what's working and what's not working, and that will dictate what you need to work on. Sorry to repeat myself in that fashion, but that's really where it's at, is you have to observe what's happening, attempt to diagnose what's happening, and then use the appropriate video, assuming that you've gone through it and achieved success with all the alignment and airflow practices. Trust faith. Hey, Jeff, I have a musical retreat. Awesome, for show choir. And it's mandatory to prepare a solo song for the first night of the retreat. Right now I'm baritone, but don't know any music that I could use. Well, if it's show choir, I'm sort of thinking Les Mis or Stars. Stars is awesome. You can't go wrong with that. It's a bit done. I mean, it's done a lot. But that's a lovely song to sing. And it's done in a variety of ranges. Just throwing that out there. But really, I would my first thought, of course, too, one of my other thoughts is just your level of anxiety around it. And if you're feeling really anxious about the performance, then pick something pick something that you're incredibly comfortable with, that you can just focus on the experience and managing your performance anxiety. If you experience that, if you don't, then pick something or pick something new that you find exciting. I don't know that you can really go wrong. Trinity Preacher at Holly, Double D Cherie. Hello, it's my first time catching a live show. Yes, it's a new user ID. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. FYI, since you're new, I get really far behind, but I really, really try to get everyone's comments, so please be patient. Love your content. Thank you. Trying to get back into singing, and your videos help me tremendously. Wonderful. Thank you. I suppose it's 10:30. I ought to do my station ID. My name's Jeff. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll do so now. Be not shy. Jump in with the chat. All kinds of questions. You have to be a little bit patient because I'm far behind, but I will try and get through absolutely everything, and I'm going to get going here and going a little faster. I've had questions about making contributions to the channel. You can no longer do that through fan funding on YouTube, and I appreciate those of you who have done so in the past. They've replaced it with something called Super Chat, and I am not going to do that. So if you do want to contribute, jeffrolka.com is where it's at, where you can also use the AAA method for free. Thank you so much. Okay, today is it really necessary to go to a vocal coach? That's a question really only you can answer. Vocal coaches of any kind are meant to be objective outside observers and expedite the process of learning. So in my training, when I work with people, I focus on what they state their goals are. So they want to do this. And so I have decades of experience, not only of training, of reading resources, but also of working with other people who've wanted to do the same thing. And all of that gets applied towards that person, and we move in that direction. Is it fair to say that they might arrive at that conclusion of their own accord? Maybe. It just might take an awful lot longer, or it might not. It's hard to say. What I would say is that if you are not getting satisfactory results working on your own, then getting a consultation with a local vocal coach or with me via Skype is entirely appropriate and can help you expedite your progress. Altug, the hardest note on earth seems to be E flat 4 to me. Is it the beginning of the passaggio, E4, F4? Does it feel rather easier than E flat 4? Yeah, that I can see why that would be like that. That's for tenors especially. If you're a baritone, that's right on the secondo passaggio, more or less. If you're a tenor, that's where the adjustments start to become rather obligatory, and it can be quite challenging. It's also where it's easy to get into a falsetto tone production as well if you're a tenor and not really solid on your registration event technique. I agree with you, Altug. I find E flat 4 to be quite challenging too. Charles Winterberger, whenever I see ledger lines, I get nervous, even though if I don't see the music, I can hit high notes, and I don't understand why. I would say it's not that you need to get out of your head. You need to get into the music and get accustomed to it. If you can sing the note without the ledger lines, then, as I mentioned before, there's either some weird thing that's happening by having the music in front of you, which is easy to do. It's like having a mic in front of your face. You can sing to the mic, and that usually results in not having enough engagement and airflow to sing adequately in the upper register, even in the normal register sometimes. Just practice with it, take it away. Practice with it, take it away, and you'll get accustomed to it. Trinity Preacher, praise God. Thank you, Jeff. I truly appreciate you. Thank you. Your advice is true. I haven't practiced much at all in the past 5 weeks. I'm sorry to hear that. But better to take time off than to develop. The worst is if we're sick and we insist on singing anyway and we start building bad habits. That's the worst. So if you need to take time off to rest, then study music, listen, transcribe, get sheet music and follow along with it. Learn to read music if you haven't learned to read music. There are all sorts of things we can do to continue our musical development, even if we can't really practice. It's perfectly fine. Heidi, does anybody else have a problem with words starting with the E sound, especially when it is fairly high? I would suspect that you are not alone with that, Heidi. E, particularly when it's in the zona del passaggio or above the secondo passaggio, we have to anticipate the airflow and the width of it. E is a very narrow focusing vowel. And so when I talk this much, I have to take a sip of water before I sing anything. I'm going to start a little lower. it's not really as wide, it's not really as narrow there as it is there. It might, I don't know if you can hear that or not. You can hear a little ever so slightly blended into it. We have to anticipate that when we start a phrase on an E vowel. 2XX Matt, hey Jeff, I have a performance in a few hours and I'm afraid of eating and fear that I will eat something that will affect my singing tonight. Any recommendations on what to eat? Oh man, gosh, this is the kind of stuff, these are the sorts of things that you have to suss out days and weeks in advance. I mean, I know nothing about your body. I know nothing about what your allergies might be. I know nothing about how your voice operates or anything at all. My advice to you is to eat the blandest thing you can possibly find that will sustain you through the performance, that is consistent with your dietary restrictions, whatever they may be. Unless you want to, if you can chime in with a bit more, and I will try to get to it. I'm going to try and speed up so I can get to everybody. But I'm thinking like, a pita. And that's it. Like a piece of pita bread or something. But for all I know, your what's that thing with wheat and stuff like that, like celiac. If you have those kinds of sensitivities, then that's an entirely inappropriate response. Because, okay, plug your ears if this is TMI, but I also give considerations to things that might, like, move through a little too quickly, if you get my drift. Like, I don't want to be on stage and then all of a sudden have like a serious issue. If you understand what I'm alluding to, it's kind of like that Apple thing from the video, I'm saying. So yeah, you have to consider your own body. That's like performance. Like when we talk about performance anxiety too, there isn't a catch-all, fix-all solution for these things. And you have to think about your body. So, but that's where I'm going with, like, a spoon of peanut butter. But if you have a peanut allergy, whoa, that would be horrible. So don't do that. For me personally, I eat things like salads with a little pita bread, or I might have like in Ann Arbor, you could go to Pizza Bob's and get a chapati, which was a pita bread stuffed with salad. That was my go-to thing. But I don't know. You have to reflect on what your body can tolerate. Confusingly enough, I can also eat yogurt without any issues and still sing perfectly fine. But I can't drink a glass of milk and I can't have green tea. Go figure. So I'm also like quite fond of having a yogurt before I perform. That works really well for me. Mandy Cummins, Jeff, can you speak to different ways to clear mucus from the throat? I've had various people say that actually clearing your throat is bad for the vocal cords. There must be a few preferable ways. Humming is good. Hot air can be good. Those methods are not going to give you instant results. Anything that is gentle on the vocal fold takes more time and more persistent attention. So, if I'm really, really phlegmy and I need to get that off, then I'm going to be for a while. And an ounce of prevention is always worth a pound of cure if you can hydrate really, really well. And I'm talking like days of prevention here, like general hydration will keep the mucus thinner. If you're having allergies and things like that, that may not be enough, and you may need to see a GP if it's truly problematic. But yeah, water is a great way to keep things fluid around there. Humming is another nice way to move things around. when we think about mucus, we think too much about clearing it, and what we want to try to change our thoughts to moving it off the vocal fold, to loosening the vocal folds, loosening the mucus around it, and moving it off. Because the notion of clearing is like a one-time thing, but it's really, if we take a longer view, then we'll be prepared when it's time to sing. Holly Emmerich at Trinity Altug, question, but in terms of the consonants, they change the level of pressure on the vocal cords, don't they? In theory, they ought not to. Consonants are, well, yeah. I mean, okay, sure. So like a T, T, te, ta, to, tu, is going to momentarily relieve the pressure on the vocal fold. An M, mi, me, ma, mo, mu, does that as well. The amount that the consonant stops the flow of air will have a greater impact. That's what will more generally affect the amount of air pressure on the vocal fold. So the greater the cessation of airflow, the more release there is on the vocal fold. That's why the lip trill is such an effective exercise. The lips form a boundary that takes some of the weight of the air column off the vocal folds, that allows the vocal fold to change shape more easily. So like when we practice registration events for the first time, the lip trill is like the go-to exercise because it takes weight off the musculature of the vocal fold and it allows it to change and shift position more easily. So you get vocalists that way before they can sing in their upper register can go and do that correctly because the vocal fold is allowed to change shape. The cricothyroid muscles are engaging and elongating the vocal fold and then releasing as we descend. Charles, thanks. This is my virgin run on a live chat. Well, welcome. I thought your user ID looked new, and welcome. Striker at Jeff, have you thought to do Patreon? I thought about Patreon, but I guess I just haven't. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to look into Patreon a bit more. The thing about the super chat was I didn't want this to turn into this thing where it was sort of, I don't want it to be pay to play, basically. I have premium services and things like that, and that's what that's all about. But I wanted YouTube, and I guess Patreon would be that way, and then there would be additional content that I could release. Maybe I ought to consider that more. I'll think about that. I haven't looked at Patreon in years. Thank you, Striker. I will give that some consideration. Tadeus, how do I keep the right posture for breathing while sitting? Because I normally sing while I'm sitting down, especially when doing covers. Really cool question. If you're playing guitar, then the answer is somewhat different than piano. In piano, quite simply, I look for a 90-degree angle in my elbows. And that usually means I'm a lot closer to the piano than I might normally be. But that helps with my body alignment. With guitar, I find that I have to take the guitar and actually have the neck pointing more forward. Pardon me. And that clears space around my rib cage. But if I'm playing, like I have a dreadnought size, I have a Gibson Hummingbird, and that's a very big guitar. And it can impede my rib cage expansion on my right-hand side quite dramatically. So a couple steps. One is to point the neck more forward. Two is to always wear a strap with it so that I'm not trying to grab the guitar into my body, like I can rest with it. I've experimented with footstools to get the right height of the guitar and the right body feel to it. But honestly, I have to admit that singing with a guitar I find quite challenging with alignment and airflow because of those reasons. And it's something that I actively work on. It also is worth saying, too, that we have to be very conscious of our alignment in these scenarios and making sure that we are maintaining it well. However, with a piano, with the 90-degree angle and also with how you position your mic, it can be very uncomfortable at first, but if you position the mic such that you have to have the head more over the shoulders and clavicle, then it can help you maintain proper alignment. But you have to kind of check in with that from time to time. JC's Radiant Ray, Jeff, would you kindly speak a little bit about how to and how not to approach pensive or somber pieces? That's interesting. Speaking for myself, to a certain degree, it is what it's not just me. It is what I believe. I feel like we have to approach those pieces with sort of in two minds. We have to take an objective look at what's on the page in front of us and the range that it goes to. And we have to also account for what we need to do technically in order to make sure that it's executed properly. So if I have a really, really somber piece, but it goes, to a G above middle C, well, if I want it to be consistent with my timbre below my secondo passaggio, then there's a baseline level of volume that I have to create to have that to be really matching. If I'm willing to allow a slight variant in the timbre, then I can perhaps have a little bit less volume. And we have to make those, ideally we make those decisions not based on our technique, but on what we want artistically for the song. Above all of that, however, or I should say the foundation of it, however, is that we maintain good intonation and good phrasing and things like that, and good sustainable phonation. So when we're singing it, we're not hurting ourselves, and we're singing in tune. If we can't sing it in tune consistently, with whatever mode of phonation we're choosing, then I think that bears more consideration before we decide that's what we're going to do. Beyond all the technical aspects of things, I think it's important for us to find the line where if we're getting verklempt or, emotionally involved in the song, like if we're coming to tears or things like that, that we find out where that line is, because we want to toe that line. We want to get as close to that line as we possibly can, because that gets exciting and that gets communicated to our listeners. And that's our coin, if you will. That's that's how we communicate, and we have to find that spot where we can maintain good singing without crossing the line. But I think we want to push that line to try to trigger emotional engagement in our listeners. JC's Radiant Ray at Heider. E is my hardest vowel, especially towards the top of my soprano range. I do not why not ask Jeff Rolka? Yeah, they did ask. That was cool. Charles Winterberger, Tadeus. Lillian Doherty, I have lower alto voice, B2 to A5, Tessitura D3 to E5, but I generally get pitchy. Yes, I think we corresponded a little bit in the comment section, but I get really pitchy over E4. Are there any warm-ups or even tips for getting better at staying on pitch, mid-range, and higher? Absolutely. Take a look at some of the upper register videos for the alto range. They're going to focus on vowel modification. So vowel modification ideally is just meant to keep the throat open so that there's adequate airflow. If you're getting pitchy over E4, I suspect that there's some type of abatement of airflow, and the vocal fold is taking on too much of the tone production. There's too much musculature involved in the tone production, and that's going to cause the pitchiness. So we want to focus on the airflow, having a bit more release around the vocal fold, and that will almost certainly remedy the problems. You might throw in a little bit of solfege practice just to keep on working on acuity. That never hurts. And I would start with that and see how you go. Yeah. Trust Faith. What exactly do humming on lip trills and rolling R's do exactly for your voice? Why is it a recommended vocal warm-up? I addressed that a few minutes ago, and hopefully that was a sufficient explanation. The rolling of the R's, I'm not as... the rolling of the R's is more about articulants, articulators. And the rrr, I don't like that as much for an airflow exercise because there's so much tongue tension involved. That's also why I'm really, really big. I know some people say that pinching the cheeks is a cheat. I object to that entirely because when that's pinched, I think it's easier to maintain less jaw tension. And the release of jaw tension is an absolute foundation for good vocal technique. And anything that can help us release jaw tension is a good thing in my book. And furthermore, if you're doing the lip rolls without the hand, you're also using some of the musculature, more of the musculature around the face. And I always want to move us in the direction of less muscle engagement in the outer muscles. So the less muscle engagement we can use in the outer face, the closer we're getting to bona fide phonation, and that's just the direction I want us to move in. So anyways, yeah, the lip trills especially take a lot of... There's two main things that it does. One, it takes some of the weight of the air column off the vocal fold, which enables registration of it more easily. So it makes it easier for the vocal folds to change shape. That helps with intonation and also helps with elongation. The cricothyroid muscles engaging and elongating the vocal fold for good upper register response. Additionally, the lips trilling, that's not the point of the exercise. That is a symptom or an indicator that our airflow is consistent. So when you've got a vocalist and they're trying to do the lip trill on an octave arpeggio, and it goes like this. You could see how they sped up and got lighter, and then it came back in. It's because the airflow abated too much. I lessened my airflow too much at the top. In a new vocalist or one who's really still practicing upper register stuff, that's almost always because the larynx is lifting. So it's a nice outward sign that airflow is changing. And that makes it easy for voice teachers like myself to diagnose problems and help people to fix them. Striker at Heidi, unlikely source. Hello, Jeff. Do you have any ideas as to why singing along to a track diverges so dramatically from simply singing the tune as I'm walking along or in the shower? Why do I feel a need to up the volume? Am I trying to match what I'm hearing? And if so, how might I resist that urge and sing as I do when I'm all wet, so to speak? Parenthetically, I haven't been able to get a response from you via email for whatever reason, which is frustrating as I usually can't make these chats at the appointed time. Okay, I'm done. Okay, I'm terribly sorry about that. I'm not sure why that is. I'm very, very responsive to emails. But it's entirely possible that it's not coming through. It could be getting filtered. I'm realizing that as everything increases on the channel, other filters are getting engaged. Like a lot of the emails come through Gmail, a lot of the comments come through Gmail, and a lot of the comments just aren't coming through any longer. And so I'm recommending people try to find me on Twitter. It's at JTROLKA. And that seems to be, nothing seems to be getting filtered there, and they just show up as notifications. So that might be a better way if it's not coming through, and I do apologize for that. When we're singing along to a track, we have a guide vocalist that we're singing along to, and you haven't said it diverges dramatically, but you haven't said how it diverges. If you're having trouble without the guide track, then that's because you're just following along and you haven't internalized the song such that you can sing it without someone singing it for you. If you're singing it better when you're not singing with the guide track, then it's quite possible that you're either not singing the right melody when you're not using a guide track, and you're not aware of it, or you're not accustomed to following along, the converse problem. And when you're waiting for them to sing something, it's having you second guess yourself. And whenever we second guess ourselves, we have issues, we have problems. We can have a false start. Things may not work out so well for us. That's why counting is such an important part of our musical training, so that we know exactly where our phrase begins, so we can come in right at that time. And that lets us predict where we're going to be with a lot greater accuracy. Holly, Jeff, can you explain the superlip trill? Absolutely. It just makes it harder. And the superlip trill is when we pull it apart. And it's really, really good at having us become that much more aware of the kind of engagement that is required for really extended range singing. So I'm going to say the F word, falsetto. I should do that video. I should do that video. When we are entering the falsetto range, and people think of falsetto as that airy sound. And yes, that is falsetto tone production. My vocal folds are separated, the ligament is creating the pitch, and it's airy. But that's not the falsetto range. Okay, to show you the falsetto range, I have to go to C5 or higher. And when I sing up to C5 and D5, I am making another registration event. That is the falsetto range. When falsetto is in its appropriate range, it can be well adducted and be full sounding like the voice lower on. I don't think I did that particularly well that time. I should have taken a drink of water like I'm supposed to do, but I didn't. But the point is that the superlip trill is excellent at helping us to develop the kind of engagement that is required to sing in those upper ranges of our voices effectively. Laura's got a smile, which is lovely. Charles Winterberger at Heidi, Pro Audio Rev TV. Thanks, Jeff. You're very welcome. At first I spent a lot of time only focusing on technique. Huge mistake. Yeah, you want to sing songs too. You have to integrate those techniques. Heidi at Striker at JC Rainier at Heidi. Charles Winterberger at Heidi at Holly. Charles, I tightened up as the line rises. I think that's at Heidi. Michael, I made it at last. Hello, Jeff and everyone else. Hello, Michael. Hey, Michael. Striker Kane at Charles. Holly at Trinity. I don't know how much the Udemy course is going to course. I try to make all those things incredibly affordable, and I don't know. I don't even know how Udemy works entirely. I just know that it's a really popular place to do those kinds of courses and things like that. I lost you guys. I have fallen horribly behind. But there's a lot of talk there. Karina, hello, Karina. I didn't get so tense 20 years ago. That's cool. At Trinity, at Holly, thanks. At Edwin, hello, Jeff. Can we have some tips for singing really long notes? Yes. Kind of. Long notes. I'm making a note because I'm just going to have to do a video for that. I'll do that quick tip soon. Potatoes. Lovely, good idea there, Trinity Preacher. I think that was Trinity Preacher. Oh, it's at Trinity Preacher. Okay. At Edwin, Bishy J Official, really long notes. Yes, at Charles. Oof, Karina Chen, TMJ and back pain. How can I jaw tension and back pain? It's going to be a slow process. It's, one of the things you can do too, I think I talked about this, was the opening the jaw and closing the jaw on your ascending, descending exercises. That can really, really help with that in terms of staying mobile. It's about mobility. With back tension, try to be in motion for a while and notice when things lock up. So if you're singing and you stick, that's when you're tensing up. And try to work through those. Keep in motion. At Holly, at Karina, Mandy Cummins, yes, I have a little tummy thing and I've got meds for it. Very good. The doctor said the back pain is just from tiredness. Mentioning the two together rings true. I'm going to ask my doc a question. Very good. Chris at Charles at Winterberger at Trinity. Thanks, Stryker. Marcos, I have difficulty figuring out how to keep the sound forward. What are some things to keep in mind for this? There's a video on that, how to sing in the mask. Check that out. It focuses on the NG sound. It's a very good exercise for that. At Trinity, at Charles. I know I'm going really fast here, folks. Just trying to get everyone in here before I have to go. Marcos, trying to go past a high B. My voice entirely switches to much lighter sound involuntary. Is this normal for tenors? Possibly. Possibly, you need to separate what it sounds like versus what it feels like. I would record yourself first. Try the super lip trill. That is going to make sure that you have enough airflow to support that B. I assume you're talking about B4 right by C5. And that will help a lot with that. At Holly and P. Greg, hey, I've found recently I've been able to sing with a lot of buzz and singers form it. If for some songs I want more of a clear sound with less buzz, how do I do that? A good visualization for that is moving the sound back towards the soft palate. So if you can visualize, like take your tongue and scrape it across the top of your mouth, find the point where the soft palate intersects the hard palate, make that like your sort of default position. And then if you imagine the sound coming back towards the soft palate more, that will usually remove some of that formant. Charles Winterberger, this is a cool community. I agree. I think it is too. And it's all you guys. My hat is off to you. I'm singing Stars tonight. Awesome. Nice to see your stream again. Thank you, Raven Wolf. Good evening to you. Lillian Doherty. Oh, and for a lower alto, would you suggest practicing tenor warm-ups? Absolutely. Absolutely. Most of the tenor ones will be, if you've got like that C3, they will be right in your range. At Tadeus, Caprence. Hey, Jeff, you are amazing. Thank you. Our vocals are similar, so your vocal exercises are perfect. Wonderful. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you. At Trinity, saludos desde Mexico, soy gran. I don't know what that means, but I think it means something nice. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. At Tadeus, at Ravenwood, laughing out loud. Hi, sorry, Jeff, my phone was acting dumb, but can you repeat my previous question, which was how? You'll have to go back and listen to it. YouTube publishes these streams as soon as I'm done, which we're almost done here. No Taco Bell before singing. I'm with you on that, Charles Winterberger. That cannot be good. Mrs. Webster, hello. I hope you're still there. At Charles Winterberger, laughing out loud. Laughing out loud, I'm not live. Sorry. Luckily, I just so happened some pita bread around. I'll use that. Thank you. You are a lifesaver. I hope so. I hope pita bread is good for you. Oh, thank you, Jeff, for the explanation of the lip trill benefits. So encouraging. Makes sense why they're my favorite warm-ups. Yes. They are not the end-all be-all, though. You got to transition from them into solid vowel singing because we have to apply that release to the vowels, and that gets us closer. I like diaphragmatically pushed H's and hydration for phlegm removal. Very good. Sahil, hi Jeff. Thank you. Excellent. Good afternoon, Robret. Hey, Robret. Haven't seen you in a while. Also, sitting with a guitar and singing at the same time is really hard. I could not agree more. At least you use a telly, usually, which has a thinner body, which actually gives me a thought. Gracias. Thank you. Altug, thank you. At Altug, thank you. Thank you. I still cannot do super lip trills. No cheek to pull out. You know what you can try to do is just a little bit of a pulling back, and that will increase the tension at the lips. At Striker Kane, thank you, everybody. This has been an awesome session. Everybody, thank you so much. I'm going to sign off. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. I'll see you next week, or I'll see you in the comments, or I'll see you on Twitter. I really, really appreciate all the questions. Such an awesome session. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. See you next week. Bye. I'll see you next week, or I'll see you in the comments, or I'll see you on Twitter. I really, really appreciate all the questions. Such an awesome session. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. See you next week. Bye.